All right, it's Saturday morning. We're back. Another edition of Krueger and Chapman. We got a lot to get to. Matt Barrows has a phenomenal article out on potential starters. We'll hit that. We'll have a mock draft made up of guys that the Niners have met with exclusively. It's all straight ahead right now. Join us. Don't miss a minute of this.
Oh, you're muted. We're starting off with the mute. That's okay.
Off and running. First mistake. Maybe I got to get a little pull of water. That's it.
There we go, man. Hey, it's Saturday morning. It's early. But we got Krueger Chapman, and I'm pumped about this, man. So excited to be with you, Larry.
Breathe. Welcome. Larry Krueger, John Chapman on a Saturday, brought to you by, on our end, of course, Pig and a Pickle. The best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out there in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. or until they run out. Pig and a Pickle. Go say hi to Damon and Mary. Get some brisket chili. And as you see over John's head, we're also brought to you by Mancini's. Are you looking to upgrade your sleep? Well, now's the perfect time. Our friends at Mancini's Sleep World kicking off their spring clearance sale March 25th. You don't have to, you definitely don't want to miss any of these deals. You get 50% off select mattresses, two free pillows with any Tempur-Pedic mattress purchase, plus an extra 10% off when you use our exclusive code Krug10. So click in the description. Make sure you use that code Krug10 to get your discount. Once again, click on the description. Use the code Krug10 to get your 10% off your mattress purchase, all at Mancini's or at their website, sleepworld.com. And thanks to Mancini's for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. And John, we have, why don't we share the screen? Because before we get rolling, let's tell people about what you got coming up on draft weekend, because I think a lot of people are going to want to know about it. This is not the first annual. John has done this before. The 49er Rush Road Trip NFL Draft Party. And tell people about it, John, if they want to get a whole, get tickets. I know they're going fast. Tell us a little bit about the event.
Yeah, we rented out Broadway Studios in the North Beach area of San Francisco, and we're throwing a party not only for day one, but day two as well. All day, all Niners, going to be incredible. Live draft coverage of the 49ers, big screens, giveaways, trivias, and we got some players coming out, which we're finalizing some contracts. Can't tease out those names, but family-friendly event, $20 for all day. It's going to be incredible. Go to the49ersrush.com, the49ersrush.com. Click that road trip ticket, and you can pick day one, day two. This is as cheap as tickets going to be. They are going to rise in prices, but if you want to come out, it's going to be an incredible experience. Full bar. We've got, food, all that kind of stuff. It's going to be a blast. So come out, party with the faithful.
And you can't bring your animals, but I've heard there could be a hyena there. That's just I know nothing.
Shoulder shrug.
Don't bring your hyena, but there could be a hyena. What are the hours on Friday and Saturday, John, or for Thursday and Friday?
So doors open 1 hour before the draft, right? So gotcha. Thursday the draft starts at 5. So we open the doors at 4. So it'll be like 4 to 9:30. And then an hour before the Friday kickoff, which is, we'll open the doors at 3. So if you're working and you're in the Bay Area, just come by afterwards, because the 49ers don't pick till 11 anyway. And hopefully they trade back. It's just going to be awesome. It's going to be a really good time.
Join John. John throws some amazing parties. 49errushroadtrip.com. Online, check it out. The tickets are there. They look like this: Rush Road Trip. You just click on that, and away you go. Do it, and you're going to be glad that you did. So awesome. That is incredible. We did go last week. We didn't go the week before, right? We skipped 1 week, but Matt Barrows today has an article out entitled "Ben Bartch and 6 Other Little-Known 49ers Who Could Have Big Roles in 2025. And I love Matty, and he does a great job. And I thought maybe before we start our mock today, that we could go through and see if the Niners, like he's suggesting that maybe these guys are potentially starters or significant players. in the year that's coming up. And let's go through these 6 guys, and then we'll see what we think collectively, and then we'll get into our mock. And today's mock, what we're going to do is we're going to use the PFF mock database, and we're going to go with only players that have direct ties to the 49ers. So that means that they had to meet with you at the Tropical Bowl or the Hula Bowl or the Combine or the 30 visits, or they had to talk to your agent. There had to be some connection between the player and the team. And I think it's a good, John, I like this angle because I really do believe that we're kind of trying to tighten our focus. And that's really what the Niners are doing right now as well.
Yeah, and I love that you started with the Tropicana Bowl and the visits, because I think that's where you're going to there is nothing better than day 3 picks and Larry Krueger, which I'm so excited about. Every time we do a mock draft, once we get to like round 5, I'm just like, all right, it's time for Larry to do his magic, man. And so I'm excited about that. And yeah, shout out to Steph Sanchez. She is one of the best in the business, and she keeps track, and she has a working, workbook of all these 49ers meetings, whether official, top 30, whatever.
Here it is right here, just so I'm showing it on the screen so people can kind of see what we're working off of here.
I've had this doc open for 6 weeks straight. It has not closed one time. And I use it. I just filter it by positions on the top left. And so you can see all the corners, all the safeties. And I go back to that thing all the time.
Yeah, it's seriously. Steph does a great job putting this thing together, and it's definitely of use because it's a value. It's a value to know those names. And people say, well, why, Krug? Come on, can you at least give us some background on this? Absolutely, I can. So Steph has made this list the last 2 years. And I would say roughly, I mean, I haven't, added it up, but roughly there's 100 names on the list every year, roughly. And the 49ers in the last 2 years have added, maybe drafted, maybe signed, maybe just acquired at some point in a trade, but they have acquired 24 of the players that they've met with before the last 2 draft cycles. Yeah. Out of, roughly 100 each year. So we're talking about. It comes out
to right at a third. Right at a third of the Niners players drafted are ones that they met with.
Right. And why is that? Because, there's only so much time, and you want to get to know the prospects as well as you possibly can. And you have questions about almost every prospect. And so you want to get your questions answered. Believe it or not, the Niners and other teams will go into this draft with unanswered questions about lots and lots of prospects. And those unanswered questions kind of hurt the draft prospects for these players because the less you know, the less comfortable you're going to be. The less comfortable you're going to be, the less likely you're going to pick that player. And it's just kind of a process that repeats all the way down through the 257 picks. So we will do a mock draft with just people connected to the Niners. But let's get into a couple topics before we hit that. And as I mentioned, Barrows has this article out about these guys that could step up. So let's go through them. The first guy he's got here, John, is a guy that I love, and I think he was the prize of the Niners draft class last year. And people would say, "Oh, Dom Pooney?" No, Evan Anderson. Evan Anderson. The 49ers did not draft a defensive lineman, but they did go and sign Evan Anderson to a significant deal and gave him like almost $400,000 guaranteed, which was just almost unheard of. And we got a chance to interview Chris Kasarik and the coaches this summer, like we always do before training camp. And I went right over to him and I said, "Hey man, tell me about Evan Anderson. Are you instrumental in him being here?" And he's like, "Absolutely. Absolutely." He's like, "I loved him. I wanted him. I pounded the table for him. We wanted him badly. We went to a number that we would never normally go to try to outbid. Seattle wanted him bad. I think he said a couple other teams, but the Seahawks definitely wanted him bad, and they wanted him too. Niners wanted him too. And what did they do? By midseason, he had become an essential part of their D-line rotation. He played 30 or more snaps in 4 games. He played left and right defensive tackle. He finished with 24 tackles, 1 sack, a forced fumble, and a fumble recovery. He wasn't dominating, but he was incredibly useful. He was the second youngest 49er in 2024 behind only Malik Mustafa. And what do you think? I mean, I think his role largely depends on the way this draft goes. He's going to be on the team, but I'll throw it to you, John. What do you think? Is Evan Anderson a starter, and does he impact like the plan on draft weekend?
I do think he's a starter in the sense of, will he be out there the first snap of the first game on the first defensive series? The answer is yes. He sure as hell should be. Now, is he your quintessential 3-down build around this player? I do not believe that to be the case. I love Evan Anderson, and I think that he is the best defensive tackle on this roster. But whenever you look at the build, 6'3", 356, I mean, he's huge. He is an early down run stuffer that can offer some in the pass rush game, but you don't really want him out there on 3rd and long. That's not his forte. So I have no problem if Evan Anderson started the entire season, but again, he's out there for 2 plays, right? Like, I want him out there on 1st, 2nd down, get the NASCAR package in. He should come off on all of those situations. But you talked about the snaps. Like, this is a 25 to 35 snap a game type player. I don't think he'll ever be a 50-plus snap guy. Hopefully Chris Kusarek and the 49ers get away from that outside of Bosa. But this guy, I don't care if he was on the Eagles. Evan Anderson would be a part of that rotation. Would he be the starter for the Eagles? Probably not. But in the NFL, I have no qualms whatsoever with Evan Anderson starting. I know a lot of players on this list I'm going to not feel that strongly about, but he has such a strong skill set that there's a place for pluggers in the NFL at this defensive tackle spot. And the 49ers have one of the worst defensive tackle rooms in the NFL, but it's not because of Evan Anderson. He is a quality player. He's a quality young player that is cost cap friendly, cash friendly after that $340,000. I like Evan Anderson. I have no problem with him starting for the 49ers moving forward at all.
Well, okay, so I mean, I would echo your sentiments. I mean, I do think he's really a good player. I like him a lot. He anchors against the run, but he's a 1st and 2nd down entity, right? He's coming off the field on 3rd down for that pass rusher. So, give you an example. A guy that I really love in this draft is Savion Jones from LSU. Savion Jones, a 290-pound defensive end who can play inside at defensive tackle. Well, in my plan, I would have a Savion Jones, and I'd play him outside, maybe on 1st and 2nd down. And then if I could draft an Olufemi Oladejo, maybe I would bring Oladejo onto the field on 3rd downs, trot Anderson off the field, and slide Savion Jones inside. It doesn't have to be Savion Jones, but that's just one guy that I think it would be he'd be a good kind of NASCAR package defensive end. So I think they need a bunch of rushers. The nice thing is, you do typically need one anchor point defensive lineman, and I think Anderson is that anchor point. So I don't view him as like a guy that I would prevent me from going after other defensive tackles because he doesn't provide the pass rush, and I'm still looking for it. But what he does is he makes it so the one technique guys, I'm not as urgent. I love Kenneth Grant, but if I want to go Walter Nolan, who's I think more of a 3 technique than a 1 technique, I can feel confident in doing that because I know I got Evan Anderson, who potentially could play that 1 technique next to a Walter Nolan.
Okay, so I'm curious, though, Larry. I want to take that a step further.
Yeah.
Does having Evan Anderson on your roster stop you from targeting guys like Alfred Collins, D1 Walker, these these larger-than-life one-tech nose tackles? Are you like, you know what? We already kind of have that. Are you staying away from those guys in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th round as well?
Yeah. Yeah, I think I am because I think, this draft, and John, it's a great question because this is a great, deep defensive tackle crop of guys. I mean, it's an amazing draft for defensive tackles. And that's, I think, one of maybe the deepest I've ever seen for defensive tackles. So, yeah, like the 1 technique guys, I want Kenneth Grant and I would try to get Kenneth Grant. But if I can't get Kenneth Grant, yeah, I think, Tyleek Williams, Deion Walker, CJ West, not Nazir Stackhouse, Jay Toyia. I might wait until late. Like, I'd like Nash Hutmacher. I like Jay Toyia. I might wait. Heck, I'm intrigued. I'll say, I don't know if I like him, but I'm intrigued by the 6'6", 464-pound Desmond Watson as a 7th-round flyer. I think I wouldn't mind taking a late-round flyer on a Desmond Watson, on a Jay Toyia, on a Yaya Black and Nazir Stackhouse, Caldwell, one of these guys that's probably going to be well after the top 150 picks. That's probably I think I would be less tied. I'm more about getting that 3 technique and an interior rusher than the anchor point against the run because of the presence of Evan Anderson. So I will say, I think he is a starter, starting caliber, and a guy that would impact my draft. Let's go to the next guys. He's got Ben Bartch and Nick Zakelj. Bartch is 26, and there's a lot of talk that he's going to step in and play left guard for Aaron Banks, who left in the offseason. Forster told us last year that Bartch was better suited for guard, while Zakelj was slightly better of the two at center. Zakelj is Brock Purdy's buddy. They used to be roommates. He's like now, a 3rd-year or 4th-year player. Smart guy with good size, and he seems to generally get better a little bit at a time. I know they really like him. I kind of think, what do you think, John? I mean, Zakelj and Bartch, are the Niners claim they love Brendel, which is why they don't necessarily need a center. I don't love Brendel, but I do kind of like Zakelj, and I do kind of like Bartch, and I do think that maybe the presence of those two guys also kind of lessens the need for a center.
Yeah, I think they both outplayed Aaron Banks, right? So if we're comparing starters to the past to the future, I think both Ben Bartch and Nick Zakelj, when they came in to relieve an injured Aaron Banks last year, I think they both outperformed him. Whether you're looking at PFF, whether you're watching game tape, whether you're watching the big miscues, I think that those guys much clearly. Now, and I think this is important too, Aaron Banks has always been an anomaly of the 49ers draft plans at the offensive line since Shanahan showed up. He does not look like Nick Zakelj or Ben Bartch. They're both 6'6", 315. They're almost identical height, weight, athletic build, arm length. They're prototypical 49ers guys. It was weird that the Trey Lance, Aaron Banks, they seemed to deviate. They were like, all right, let's go more power scheme. Trey Lance didn't work out. They're like, oh, well, all right, we're moving on. But I do like both these guys. I think Ben Bartch is more consistent. I think Nick Zakelj has a higher ceiling. So I think that this is going to be probably the number one camp battle if the 49ers do not address, draft a left tackle early that could slide into left guard. But I think that this is going to be a very interesting battle. And, man, I'm with you on the center. I would prefer both. I would take Nick Zakelj over center Jake Brendel. I'd take Matt Hennessy over Jake Brendel. But this left guard battle is going to be fun to watch. Can Ben Bartch stay healthy? He played in 3 games last year, was good in those 3 games, but got injured. And then, you bring him back on a very friendly salary. The salary and the contract that Ben Bartch got do not necessitate starting snaps. Barely over the vet minimum. So there is no guaranteed here any of these guys are going to start. I think the Niners are fine with both. I would give the cap to Ben Bartch and allow Nick Zakelj to be the interior backup, whether that's left guard, right guard, center, depending on what happens with Hennessy and Brendel. But, yeah, if I had to bet now, I'd say Ben Bartch, he's more consistent. But, man, that pass protection from Zakelj was off the charts during his, few 5 games that he was here. So I'm okay with either. I would like to upgrade that spot, though.
I look at this line and I just think, okay, you're set at left tackle for now with Trent, but not long term. And you're set at right guard with Dom Pooney. But, if you found an awesome right tackle, you could move McKivitz inside to guard. I think center is going to be a battle between Brendel and Matt Hennessy and Drake Nugent. I think left guard is going to be a battle between Ben Bartch, Spencer Burford, maybe Colton McKivitz if there's a new tackle in the mix, maybe Nick Zakelj. But I definitely think, they've got some. I'll say this, between Bartch and Burford and Hennessy and Zakelj and McKivitz, they have some guys, Nugent, they have some guys they like, but I don't know if they have that difference maker player, and I think I'd be looking for bigger bodied guys and prospects that have a little bit more upside, both at guard and tackle. But I do think that Zakelj and Bartch and Matt Hennessy are all, potentially interior starters that could, alleviate the pressure to take that guard early. I mean, I'm a big Willie Lampkin fan. I like Marcus Ware. There's a couple offensive linemen I really, really like in this draft quite a bit. In day 3 at tackle, Carson Vincent and Caleb Etienne and some of these guys. I really do think there's some good value on day 3 on the offensive line, which is rare. But I also think Zakelj and Bartch and Hennessy are in line to start. How about Tatum Bethune? I mean, Bethune is an interesting guy. He's a great guy to talk to, Florida State kid. And he's like a first and second down banger, right? I mean, this guy can absolutely, stop the run. Winters played 398 snaps last season. He kind of took over for Campbell late in the year as the guy, but Bethune, who's 24, played weak side linebacker at Florida State. But he's not near as fast as Winters. I mean, Bethune ran a very slow time. Winters ran 4.49. Bethune ran 4.75. Now I do think that Bethune, I wish I could combine Tatum Bethune and D Winters, because Winters has the blistering speed and he's got the explosiveness, and he flies around. Bethune, though, has got the greater instincts. He doesn't fly around, but when he hits you, you go down, and he's got a great nose for the ball. Though, I don't think he's a starter, because I think when you run 4.75 at linebacker, everybody knows how fast everybody is. And if you put Tatum Bethune out there, they would, some offensive coordinator would isolate him in space in a pass situation and just burn him consistently. So I like Bethune. I like him as a backup. I like him as a teams guy. I like him on the team. I don't like him starting.
My issue with Bethune is he's kind of like Evan Anderson at a linebacker. Like, he is just a stud run defender, thumper. You run it towards him, you get Dre Greenlaw type vibes. The problem is he's a 100% run defender.
Yeah.
You're out at practice or training camp and you watch him in one-on-ones. He's nowhere remotely close ever to the pass catcher. Like, he just cannot, and you see it on special teams. He's not a space player. He is a between the tackles. If this was the 1980s, Tatum Bethune would be a team captain. You know what I mean? He'd have the neck roll. He's thumping. He's taking the fullback on ISO. Like, he was just made for that era. If he can adapt to understanding the pass and being able to play in space, zone helps him. Like, he's in the most pass scheme friendly spot that we could have, what the 49ers do with Salo or Sorensen, whomever. But he has the elite trait of stopping the run. That is what he could hang his hat on. Can he adapt and evolve into being a coverage guy that comes in and isn't a liability against heavy personnel, 12, 21, 22 personnel sets? Because that right now he's the Sam only. Like, you watch him practice, and it's been Sam and Will only. He's not getting any Mike snaps. I think the 49ers feel more comfortable with Curtis Robinson in that role because he's not such a liability against the pass. But, man, Tatum, it's Fred Warner than Tatum whenever it comes to the run game. D Winters is not on par with what he can do stopping the run. Like you said, whenever you said I want to combine him and D Winters, that's exactly correct. Like, that's what you want. You're just hoping that the instincts, the route recognition, the play recognition, the film room can adapt Tatum Bethune to not being a liability in the pass game. That is his only issue. And my biggest problem, as somebody that's watched every single special teams snap for the 49ers in 4 consecutive years, he is a problem, a liability on special teams because he cannot play in space. It's just not what he is. He's a tunnel guy. So can that adapt? I like the prospect. I like the attitude. I like the elite run stopping ability. You got to be able, you can't be a liability in the passing game. That's the one area where I'm just like, man, just make a modest stride up year 2. And then, okay, you could start earning some Sam snaps, but I'm not sure he's there yet. We'll have to wait and see what this looks like. And, did year 2, did he take that jump?
Well, I like a lot of these players, but it really comes down to it's all relative, right? Like, if you said to me just in a vacuum, do you like Tatum Bethune? Yeah, I like him. Yeah. Do you like Jalen Graham? Yeah, I like him. Do you like Curtis Robinson? Yeah, I like him. And then we start talking about, do you like these guys to start? No, I know I don't like any of them. In fact, I basically I look at this Niner linebacking core as Fred and D, and we're looking for more because Gifford is a special teamer. Graham's unproven seventh rounder. Bethune, I don't think has enough mobility to be a third down player. I think he's just a first and second down run thumper. Curtis Robinson is a better athlete, moves better, but he's coming off a major injury. I think he really tops out as a special teamer. I think Curtis Robinson's a special teamer. He's the Oren Burks, right?
Yes.
He's a special teamer that if you have an injury late in the year, you could throw him in there and have a reasonable expectation that he could do the job from scrimmage. But he shouldn't be plan A or plan B. He should be the break in case of, break glass in case of an emergency and I know Curtis doesn't want to hear that because he's trying to transition to, from special teamer to full-time linebacker, but that's just kind of how I feel. All right, let's go to the next guy on the list, and that is Tre Brown. Tre Brown. Now, Tre Brown, this is an interesting one because Tre Brown was signed as a free agent this offseason and from Seattle. And, if you said who's the Niners' third corner, right now I would say it's him. I mean, Mooney Ward's gone. Isaac Yadam's gone. Rock Ya-Sin is gone. So they have Renardo Green and they have Demo Lenore. And I would say at the second, Tre Brown is their third corner. And he played, 1,169 career snaps. The majority have come on the outside, which is okay because Lenore is really, really good on the inside. Tre Brown's 27. And the other contenders at corner are Saron Neal, who's really more of a special teamer, Trey Avery, Trey Tomlinson, who's a really, small athlete, but very intriguing athlete, Darrell Luter, who's got a lot of size, and then Chase Lucas, who was on the roster last year as a special teamer. I don't think Tre Brown is a starter, but I do think he's slated right now to be a starter, which means that I think corner is a major need in this mock that we're going to do.
Yeah, well said, Larry. I love how, you look at Tre Brown and you see 5'10", 185. You're like, oh, this is a nickel guy. No, he's not. He is not a nickel guy. He is not the change of direction. He's a top end speed guy. He's a physical corner, and he's going to be an outside corner for the 49ers. Now, could you move him inside? Sure, that's not his skill set. Top end speed is where he excels. Now, let's get to the issue. He's not getting paid like a starter. He has $165,000 guaranteed money only, and he's missed 39 games in 4 years. This is, hey, we're going to bet that he stays healthy finally. And he said on social media, you're finally getting me healthy. I wasn't healthy all last year. I mean, he's had injury in his 4 years in the NFL, but he is a quality player. Am I comfortable with him at cornerback 3? No. Even if he had a clean bill of health, still no. There needs to be a competition here. And so it is funny. We're talking meetings, and we're going to do our mock draft in a second. The 49ers have met with more cornerbacks than any other position. They have met with corner, and it's first round corners, second round corners, third round corners. Like, corner is, whether you believe it or not, by far one of the biggest needs on this 49ers rosters, according to the 49ers front office. So, yeah, I'm with you. There is not a cornerback 3 that I feel comfortable on this current roster. If you had to play right now, it'd be Tre Brown, but he's undersized. Instincts aren't great. He does have good top end speed. He's got good ball skills, and I like him. I think he's a better football player than he is an athlete. And I feel like he plays like a 6'1", 180 corner trapped in a 5'10" body. I can relate to that. He's a good player. He's a good football player. And, I'm a Longhorn. This guy balled out against Texas back in college, and he's got great college tape. And he was the guy that lined up against the number 1 all throughout his college career. Like, he's got quality tape. It's just, can you stay healthy? Have the instincts improved in 4 years? That's the question. He is not a cornerback 3, though. I would be very happy with him as a corner 5, but I'd take him over anybody else we got right now. It is Diamador Lenore. It's Renardo, giant gap, then probably Tre Brown, Darrell Luter.
Yeah, I mean, I would go to Darrell Luter and say, that is your job. You are here to fill that job. I know you've had a redshirt year. I know you've had, time to adapt. I know there's been some injuries. I know there's been some competitions. You are the best talent in the room. You need to ascend to that number 3 corner job. I mean, that's a conversation that the Niners have to have with Luter because he's too big, he's too talented, he's too smart, he's too good. I mean, and believe me, this guy's good. He just needs some time. There's a few guys on this roster.
67 snaps, Larry.
Yeah,
Darrell Luter has played 67 snaps in 2 years.
It's unbelievable. I mean, and a lot of it's because of injury. But I'll say this: I've interviewed him. He's a mature guy. He's married with a child. It's not a lot of times guys who don't play on the corner as rookies can't play press man. He can play press man. So it's not about like, oh man, he just doesn't match up. No, it's, it's a combination of injuries, competition, right place, right time, confidence, but he is an asset that they've got to get more out of. All right. Last one here is Tariq Owens. The Niners are definitely light at receiver. Debo's gone. Ayuk could be gone. Chris Conley is a free agent. He's yet to re-sign. This is Terrell's son. He's 25. Niners, they believe in him. They signed him to the practice squad during the season after he broke his hand in August. There were also 15 teams interested in him at the time. He's 6'2". He's 200 pounds. He didn't even play football until he was a sophomore in high school. Didn't really play seriously. I talked to him about it until he was a senior. Then somehow found his way to Missouri State. He spent the offseason this year training in Houston and Miami. He's working out with Javon Holland, the former Dolphin, now the current New York Giant. So he's raw. I mean, he's a very raw player. Niners are optimistic about his natural gifts. You can see the athleticism that Terrell has handed him. And he's a very intelligent kid. So, and he's a good guy. So, I mean, character, smarts, athleticism, but as a receiver, he's a raw, clump of moldable clay. I think he's too raw to depend on in any real way.
Well, okay, there was an article out. It might have been, I think it was Barrels earlier in the year. Maybe actually it was Mayoko. And I retweeted it and I said, I know people probably don't want to hear this, but the truest X wide receiver, your number 1 vertical stretching whatever outside of Brandon Ayuk on the 49ers roster, it's Tariq Owens. And people were very upset and whatever else, people get upset on social media. You look at this current roster. Yeah, really. It happens. My best is when they make fun. The best one I've ever had is when people made fun of my grandparents. I was like, dude, this is hilarious. I love this. Anyway.
Oh my God.
But
that is just seriously, dude. If you're going after Chapman's grandparents, get a fucking life.
What did BB do?
Seriously, where are they hanging? They're probably in some small town in Texas somewhere, minding their own business, sitting there just hoping that UT will get a couple key recruits, and you're going to sit there and crush them in a live stream. How dare these people?
I love it, man. But here's the issue: you have Brandon Ayuk. You just had the report from Schefter, going to miss. We were projecting he was going to miss a lot of time. You signed Demarcus Robinson. He's going to get suspended. You're probably going to have to start Juwan Jennings at X.
Yeah.
Like you did to stop the year. But outside of that, you've got maybe Isaiah Hodgins, but Tariq Owens is the truest X. What is an X wide receiver? That is somebody at Shanahan's definition can press vertical. Tariq Owens, that is his number 1 skill set. Is he a starting NFL wide receiver? No, like Larry said. However, people could say, oh, he just got that because of, his dad and whatever. No. If you've been at training camp and you watch him, he could press the field vertical very, very well. Can he run the rest of the route tree? No, but he has an NFL body, and he is a guy that can make contested catches vertically. That is his number 1 skill set. You don't have that on this roster. You really, really don't. So do I think that he's going to start? No. Do I think that'll be called up and be active? Possibly. Yeah, the 49ers got to address wide receiver, but the fact that early on, and I think Mayoko, Barrows, Larry, you guys are on to something. If you're trying to look at the X wide receiver depth chart for the 49ers, Brandon Ayuk, not going to play for a while. Demarcus Robinson, going to be suspended. You shift Juwan Jennings over to that spot, but even behind him, you've got to have somebody. Tariq Owens, Isaiah Hodgins. You're light at the X position. You are so light at that wide receiver role.
I've been an advocate for about a couple weeks now that the Niners ought to trade Ayuk for whatever they can get and move on. And one of the things that I think is really attractive about the potential for it, not only do you cleanse your cap, you get rid of a player that I don't think really loves Shanahan or Shanahan really loves and I think doesn't want to be here. But also, I think there's potential if you can get a couple late round picks that there's some late round wide receivers that are really intriguing. And I would take a couple flyers on some of these late round wide receivers. I had an NFL draft guru on from the 33rd team yesterday. And I'd gone through earlier this week and done the 2.5 hour deep dive on all the receivers, looking to see who the best receivers are. And Keandre Lambert-Smith from the Penn State kid who transferred to Auburn, who ran in the 4.3s at the combine, he really stood out to me. And then when I asked this draft guru from the 33rd team yesterday, give me a day 3 wide receiver that stands out to you. I mean, the guy said him. I mean, it's like Keandre Lambert-Smith, KLS, I think is what they call him. But I definitely think that I'm intrigued by Tariq Owens. But I definitely think the Niners, there's some value in a day 3 wide receiver. I also threw out the poll question yesterday on X. Let me see if I could show this. This is a pretty good poll question. And the poll question was just, hey, look, Ayuk's agent says that he's going to be, our agent, his doctor says that he's going to be out for at least half the season. What should John Lynch do about this? And here's let me see, I'll share, you can share the screen. You can take a quick, brief check of this poll. Here it is right here. According to Adam Schefter, Brandon Ayuk's doctor says he's likely out until midseason. What should John Lynch do at wide receiver? Go in-house with candidates, draft a wide receiver on day 1 or day 2, draft a day 3 sleeper wide receiver, or trade for a veteran. And as you can see here, 41.8% say draft a day 3 sleeper wide receiver. And really what they're saying there is do not draft a receiver on day 1 or day 2 because you need to fill the trenches, right? That's what that 41.8% tells me. 22.6% was the second choice. They say do draft a wide receiver in the first, second, or third round. Trade for a veteran is 21.6%. But look at the least number is go in-house. Go with in-house candidates. There's not a belief in Tariq Owens in that 14% right there.
And there shouldn't be.
No.
Not as a starter. He's a developmental, perhaps, hey, we're going to put you in special teams. He went all out on special teams. And I think that's when he got hurt too. I remember whenever he ran into the locker room in training camp and it was like, oh man, Tariq Owens just ran in. He broke his arm wrist. And that was kind of the end of last year. But this dude is playing his rear end off. I like him. And, I'm probably the minority in the fact that I believe Ayuk, 27 years old. He's somebody that you could build around in the future. You've already hit the huge cap spending. I know there's some, but the 49ers and cap, we got $38 million cap right now sitting on the shelves that the 49ers ain't even going to touch. So I probably would prefer to keep them. But if you do trade Ayuk, man, now you're talking Ted McMillan at 11 is a very real possibility. Jaden Higgins, Trey Harris, round 2. Ellick from Stanford, round 3. Kyle Williams. Yeah. If you traded Ayuk, you now have defensive tackle being one of the worst in the NFL at that position, and also the X wide receiver. You have no vertical threats on this roster. And for people that want to say, I love Ricky Pearsall, dude's not a vertical threat. That is not his right. He's a horizontal space creator. It can run slot fades and post routes, but as far as running the outside the numbers, it's pretty hard to find any of those at Florida, at Arizona, that's just not his thing. It doesn't mean he's not great, but he was designed and drafted to beat man coverage in that Z flanker Debo role, and that's where he's going to be now. The X, man, I'm betting on Ayuk to come back halfway through the year. You can use Juwan Jennings there, but I think you do have to draft an X wide receiver, whether you trade Ayuk or not. You just don't have the depth there. And that's kind of the theme of the 49ers this year. This roster and the fact that you didn't add really anything in free agency, you do not have depth anywhere anymore. Nowhere. Even though you signed 4 safeties, you don't have depth there either.
The only depth the Niners have is they've got just a burgeoning group of content creators. Other than that, I mean, if you're looking for depth in content creators, we can go 19 deep. But as far as linebackers, no. Receivers, no. Okay, so just to sum this up, these were Matt Barrows. Can these guys be starters? I would say Evan Anderson, yes. Zakelj, yes. Bartch, yes. Hennessy, yes. Bethune, no. Tre Brown, no. Tariq Owens, no.
Yep.
Were we pretty much in agreement? I guess that maybe, I'm not sure that I love Zakelj, Bartch, or Hennessy, but in the grand scheme of things, in their, they got 2 openings in their interior. If you told me they filled defensive tackle, wide receiver, corner, linebacker, and they just got like a day 3 guy to compete with Zakelj and Bartch, I would say, okay, at least you have some guys there. In addition to what you draft. By the way, what this does hit, the thought that it hits when I see these names is that the Niners, like every team, John, they have some wild cards. And this is who I view the wild cards as this year, as far as before we even get into the draft or who's going to be added. This is who I think are wild card factors this summer for me. Isaiah Hodgins. I really believe in Isaiah Hodgins. I really like Isaiah Hodgins as a possession receiver. Jacob Cowing, I think, is definitely a super wild card factor. Spencer Burford, I think, is a major wild card factor. He's got a lot of physical ability, and it's time for him to step up. He's been in the league long enough. Mason Pline, who's got an unbelievable skill set with great hands, great leaping ability, great athleticism in a 6'8" frame. They gave him the redshirt year last year. He will be in camp this year looking to fight for a spot. He has legitimate talent. Tanner Mordecai, definitely a flyer on him. Izzy Abanaconda, there's no doubt in my mind that Izzy Abanaconda is a good player, but he's yet to get on the field. So he definitely is a flyer I'm waiting on. There's a guy on the defensive line they signed at the end of last year named Teron Jackson, who my buddy Rick Mueller recruited to Coastal Carolina, and the Eagles drafted him. And he hasn't quite made it, but man, I think he's better than Beal and Barrett and Garvin and Drake. I think he's going to make the team. Teron Jackson, he's a wild card. I'll throw Winters in there because he didn't get a lot of run this year. I'll throw Luter in there for the exact same reason. I'll throw Jair Brown in there as well. And then I guess I probably would throw Trey Tomlinson because of his crazy athleticism in there as well. But those are what I view as kind of the wild card factors, where they're talented players that I really like, that I think have a chance to have an NFL career. But to this point, they haven't done a whole bunch. And I would probably throw Richie Grant, the safety they brought in from Atlanta, on that list as well, because I think Richie Grant is a much better player than others do. Other people see a special teamer. I don't. I see a guy who I think can play from scrimmage.
I think he can too. You know what? The first thing I'm going to look whenever, they open up practice and we got training camps, where is Spencer Burford taking snaps? Barrows has talked about how they started working him at tackle last year. Felt like he was always built at tackle. You go back to UTSA, they had all those starts at left tackle. Is he the new Jalen Moore? Right? Where does that fit in there? Mason Pline. There's still a need at tight end despite having Kittle and paying for Farrell. You need that move piece tight end. That is Mason Pline's specialty. Now, there's a lot of those in this draft, and we'll see how the mock draft goes. But if for some reason the Niners don't land that receiving style move tight end piece, Mason Pline, he's in competition for that. So I would like to see that. And yeah, I'm with you on Richie Grant. If you want that speed, free safety look, on a budget, and you don't want to spend a draft pick, which now I'm getting to the point where, man, I'm not sure they're going to draft another safety because you got so many in the room. I still think George Odom probably gets cut in the next few days because he's got that April 1st bonus coming in. Richie Grant is, if Jair Brown does not step up, and if he doesn't go back to his rookie ways and stays with what he looked like under Nick Sorensen, which was not consistent and not good, Richie Grant will start half of this season at that second safety spot. I'm with you there, Larry.
Yeah, I really like Richie Grant. I think I like him a lot. All right, let's hit. We got people saying start the mock. We're going to go fast on the mock today, but here we go.
Excited.
We are going to go with the supers here. Edgar Ascoli says $2 super sticker. What the R there? I'm not sure what the R there is in front of the $2.
I think it's a different currency.
Different currency.
So, yeah, I think that's what that is.
Maybe it's a ruble. Kid Trickster, you guys disagree on Derek Harmon. Can you explain why? Absolutely not. We will not debate that. No.
Oh, come on.
No,
so I got messaged this a few times the last couple days.
Yeah, Mason Wright says it too. He says, John, I need a Derek Harmon debate. Larry says he's terrible run defender. So here's my thing on Derek Harmon. I did the deep dive on a bunch of the defensive linemen, and when I got to Derek Harmon, I did the cardinal sin, which is I let the stats impact me. And so I'm looking at his 65 pressures and I'm like, or 55 pressures. And I'm like, oh, this guy led the country in pressures. This guy's great. And I put on the film and I didn't like it. Then I went back and watched his full combine cut up workout. And I didn't like it at all. There were some things that he did in his workout that just really, really didn't look good to me. And then I went and watched a couple Oregon games late in the year, from late in the year. And I see it as a pass rusher, but I don't think this guy is strong against the run. I don't see functional strength. There's no question he's a 1-year starter. He was a rotational player at Michigan State. If you go back and watch him, he wasn't like a first and second down consistent starter. They had a bunch of guys and they rotated him through and he got disenchanted there and he left. I just see a player that is still very much developing. And he's long, but he's a 1-year starter. I think he's far better as a pass rusher than he is against a run defender. I didn't see him throwing away blockers and making plays against the run. I saw a guy who, came off of blocks, but not with any kind of real force. He never threw anybody away. I want to see defensive tackles who are constantly throwing guys away and making plays. And I didn't see that ever from Harmon. So and then I saw some numbers against his numbers against the run, and he's pretty deficient against the run. So it's not that I hate him. I just don't like him where he's drafted. He's supposed to go anywhere from, 10 to 40. And I think I would take him between 40 and 90.
Okay. Now, and I'll say this, like, agreeing to disagree.
I don't know.
You know a lot, dude.
No, but,
Larry,
But what do I know at the end of the day? We're all guessing, right? I mean, let me just say this. I know I was big on the draft when I first started scouting in the early 90s. A buddy of mine who was the head of personnel for the Gold Miners in the Canadian League in the April, 2 months before training camp, said, hey man, let's go do a deep dive. And I'm going to show you some of the work I did when I was with the Raiders and with the Bengals on the draft. So you can see the failure rate. And so he's like, cause you don't really know what you're watching until you know the failure rate on the numerical failure rate by position. And so we went through this whole deep dive on the draft, the 2 NFL drafts prior. And sure enough, he was right. Most prospects fail. And so the draft is about identifying false favorites. So most of these guys are not going to make it. So you do have to be kind of skeptical when you watch them, instead of being of that mindset that everybody's going to be great and show me the one guy that isn't going to be great. Go in it, flip that mindset. Everybody's going to suck except for a few people, and you're trying to find the guys that won't suck. And I know that sounds super hyper negative, but if you look at the numbers, that's the more of the reality.
Yeah. And so, like, here, let me just, again, we're putting out two opposing views on a player. And this is exactly what happens in war rooms, by the way. Like, because you'll have a coach fall in love with a guy and you'll have a scout disagree. And you'll have, this is what happens.
And there's arguments. We have remember Philly a couple years ago? They drafted Milton Williams. Everybody in the room was high-fiving. Howie was going around shaking everybody's hands. He got to Tom Donahoe, a white-haired individual who's been scouting forever, was in Buffalo, Pittsburgh, and a really respected guy. Donahoe wanted another guy, and he wouldn't shake Howie's hand, and they were pissed about it. And Howie was right, and Donahoe was wrong. And I forget who Donahoe wanted at the time, but that guy was nothing, and Milton Williams just signed the biggest contract of anybody in free agency.
Yeah. Now, my biggest issue with Derek Harmon is the 1 year wonder. Now, he was 340 pounds at Michigan State. That one technique, just a plugger. He transferred, loses 25 pounds, got down to 313 at the combine, 6'4", 313. So I think that has a lot to do with it. But I am always wary of the 1 year wonders. That is an issue. And with Derek Harmon, that is true. I think that is a very, very fair statement. Now, the way Derek Harmon wins against the run is very different than a lot of the Walter Nolan, blowing people up and just marching the guard back 3 feet into the mesh point. You don't get that. Derek Harmon does play high, but the upper body strength, the bend, the hips, and the hand technique is what I like. My favorite game that I've seen of Derek Harmon is the Rose Bowl against Ohio State, who I consider to be one of the – I consider they won the national championship. They beat my Longhorns. I think they're the best team. He had a 90 grade against the run against them. So I don't think that the highlights aren't Derek Harmon's forte. My thing is I don't see him getting pushed back ever versus duo. He stalemates at the front, and he can get off the duo combo block very, very effectively. That's why I like him. I have a hard time finding the negatives. I want a pass rusher that can stop against the run. I think he does check both boxes. He's number 27 on my board, but I do think that he's a Niners fit. I do not consider him a bad player against the run. The tackle for losses, you combine what he did last year, pretty close near the top in the country, but I get it. I understand where if you watch his highlights against the run are not as sexy as a lot of the other defensive tackles in this class. But I do like the consistency with which he won all year. And I think that he has been at a defensive tackle spot, which is rare. The athleticism, I think the Niners are really high on this guy. Do I think he's worth the 11th pick? I would like it. I think it's a little rich. But I feel that way about all the defensive tackles outside of Mason Graham, though. I
guess my big concern was before I even really studied the tape is I don't like the body type. I like an Evan Anderson body type for defensive tackle. Give me a Dana Stubblefield body type. Give me somebody who doesn't look very big in the upper body, but give me somebody who's got real anchor as in the lower body. He's got bad weight. He's got a top heavy frame. I didn't like him coming off of blocks against the run, especially inside. To me, the feet were not great. I think his pass rush, there's not like some of these guys, like Aeneas Peebles, for example. He's liquid. Like if you block him to the left, he can roll to the right. You block him to the right, he can roll to the left. He can counter everything you try to do to him by just being incredibly liquid in his movement ability. This guy is much more linear. When he gets out of his stance, he can get up the field, but there's not if he gets stonewalled, there's not a lot of twist and turn and torque, and I think that's a major part of defensive tackle play. I like the player, John. I just don't like him in the first round. I mean, like if Derek Harmon's sitting there and it's halfway through day 3 or day 2, I mean, and you're sitting there at the top of the third round, the Niners have 2 picks in the third round. Let's just say they go Membu at 11 and they come back and they take a running back in the second round. And now you're in day 3 and you need defensive linemen, and all of a sudden Derek Harmon, for whatever reason's there. I think it's a slam dunk pick. I just don't like him where he's slated, which is late first round. I'd rather go with some other guys. But, I mean, I don't hate him. I just think that he's a little bit more, I'd rather have Walter Nolan. I'd rather have Kenneth Grant. I'd rather have Joshua Farmer. I'd rather have Tyleek Williams. I'd rather have Omar Norman Lott. I'd rather have Ty Robinson. There's a bunch of Peebles. There's a bunch of guys I'd rather have. But as I said, I mean, it's just that's how I feel about it. I mean, I'm not super anti. I just don't love him.
I'm curious to see where he's going to go.
Yeah.
I have a hard time seeing him get out of the first round with the pass rush productivity that he had, but we'll see. We'll see. It's always good to disagree on these guys, and that doesn't mean either's wrong. And that's the thing. Like, you don't even get justified in draft takes, even if somebody's taken early, until a year or two into the process. And so, not that we're into this to I'm right, you're wrong. That's not who we are. It's just, man, this is fun, and hopefully somebody out there listening or watching is like, okay, I'm gonna go watch some tape, and you form your opinions, right? And so I love this stuff, man. I wish we disagreed more, Larry. We need to fight.
I know. I have a buddy who scouts for the Seahawks, and he called me this week, and we were just talking about other stuff, and I said to him, hey, man, there's 3 Oregon guys all on that line that are going to get drafted high: Bartch, Caldwell, and Harmon. And I said, the more I watch them, the more I don't like any of them. We started laughing, and he's like, well, it's funny, Krug. He's like, Caldwell has got a ton of talent, but he hasn't done it, so his film is just not good. He's like, Harmon has done it. But I don't think he's got as much talent as these other 2 guys. Bartch, he's like, was a total dog with fleas until this year. But he thinks of the 3. I said, if of the 3, who do you like the most in the pros? He's like, I think the light went on for Bartch this year, and I kind of like Bartch the most at the next level. Bartch is coming off an 8.5 sack year as a 280-pound defensive edge rusher. So he didn't love any of the 3, but he liked Bartch the most. I'm a little partial, maybe partial against the Oregon guys, because so many of them have busted in my mind, but we'll agree to disagree on that one. We got a couple of supers, and then we'll hit the mock. Edgard Escoli goes super sticker. We got Kid Tricksta. You guys disagree. Mason Wright. John, I need a Derek Harmon debate. Larry says he's a terrible run defender. Ricky says, good show, fellas. Let's be real. If it's a retool, why not get
AR, Kirk, or Matt. I'm not sure.
AR.
Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers.
Kirk Cousins, or I don't know who Mac is.
But trade Purdy and develop for the future while keeping Fred. I love Grant, but good. All I would say is, Ricky, call him up and tell him Krug says no, not on this one.
You don't get rid of good quarterbacks.
Well, and I've watched Grant's video, and I understand exactly where he's coming from. I do. He's arguing that the Niners would be a more competitive team if they had a quarterback on a rookie deal and moved and didn't pay Brock and went with somebody else, some gap filler, in this case a veteran like Rodgers, or a veteran like Cousins, or a younger guy like Mack. But you know what? They're going to commit to Purdy, and I think that they should commit to Purdy. And I think, to be honest, and I think Grant might even agree with this, I think I'm not saying there would be a mutiny, but there's going to be a lot of guys going, what in the fuck is going on around here, if they traded Brock Purdy and signed Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, and plus you got $40 million cap space right now. You're not touching and you're not using. So I don't understand that debate. And if you did bring in AR or Kirk Cousins, they're going to have an even bigger cap hit than Brock Purdy will once that contract gets signed. Look at Jalen Hurts. His cap hit was $27 million this year, and he's in the 4th year of his negotiated extension. So from a cap perspective, I don't buy it. From a football perspective, I don't buy it. I completely disagree with that take personally.
Yeah, I mean, I understand it. And I think Grant lays it out logically. I just don't agree, and I think that it is the time to pay Purdy, and I think you can pay him and build around him. This whole we can't do it. You didn't do it with him on the rookie contract, but there were other factors. Now you're going to have to do, and the Eagles just showed you can do it. You're going to have to build around a quarterback on a big boy deal. and let's see if you can do it. Joseph Ehrenberg, some of these guys should have played the last 2 games. Okay. James
Yeah, that was
Montgomery.
when we were going through the starters. Shanahan doesn't rotate guys. He will not give people chances when games don't matter and you're out of the playoffs. CMC is still going to be out there whenever you're up 27 and there's 2 minutes left in the fourth. It's one of my biggest pet peeves. I love Shanahan. I'm glad he's our coach. That drives me insane when Nick Bosa's out there trying to get bonus money. I can't stand that. Like, I just don't understand it.
Can I speak directly to Kyle Shanahan right now? Because I know he watches the Krueger show on a regular basis. Kyle, play Izzy Abanaconda. Please, Kyle. Please. Izzy Abanaconda. Please. Is it asking too much? I really believe in that kid. I'll say this. John, will you be the one who remembers? Because nobody ever remembers this stuff. Will you be
Pepperidge
the one
Farm remembers?
Will you be the guy who remembers that I was banging the table for Izzy Abanaconda when he gets some shine and he shows that he's good?
I understand my role on this team. Check.
Yeah, thank you. James Montgomery, tight end Taylor and Fannin are being mocked to the Niners in the 2nd and 4th round, but doesn't the signing of Farrell almost eliminate that? When would they play? Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, that's the downside of the people who say, hey, go get Tyler Warren. You're going to invest a 1st-round pick in a guy who's going to play, 11 snaps a game and 12 personnel? I don't see it. And then James Foster says, Aeneas Peebles reminds me of Ronnie Blair. Yeah, that's a good one.
I love Blair coming out of App State, man.
Oh, he was tough as hell. I saw Blair in the bowl game, in the Motor City Bowl the year he came out, and this guy dominated that Motor City Bowl like few others. All right, it is time for our mock draft. Here it is. We're going to go, and we're going to go fast. We're not going to ham and haw and take forever. We're going to choose off of the Steph Sanchez list of the prerequisites for our mock today, guys, just so you know, is everybody that we draft has to have met with the 49ers or had some connection with the 49ers according to the Steph 49K draft 49er meeting sheet. Okay, so let's see. Where is the mock? There it is. Okay. All right. We are off and running here. Here we go. Let's get the randomness up there. We got the board set. We got the Niners there. We're going 7 rounds. We're entering the draft. John, you can go. We can start. We can make a trade to start. You can. Do you want to trade anybody? You want to trade for anybody? I actually wouldn't mind moving Ayuk for 2 2s and a player here. But how do you want to start?
Man, I feel like I want Larry's mock if we keep Ayuk.
Okay.
Does that make sense? I want to see where you have everybody. If for some reason the 49ers found a way to keep Ayuk. So let's go forward that way, if that's okay.
So we're starting. No, you don't need to make any trades. We can start right now. I do like the idea, by the way, I don't know if I floated this to you last time, but I do like the idea, and I floated it in maybe a video or a live stream this week, of trading a day 3 pick to the Eagles for Bryce Huff.
Yeah, I mean, you have to have edge players, but will you pay them? Will Jed York sign off on that? That's the question. But yeah, you need any edges. You do not have a capable edge. I love Samo, Eter Gross-Matos. I'm a little lower on than most, but yeah, you do not have edge players. Yeah, Bosa and nobody.
All right, let's start. You want to go first? You want to go second?
I want you to go first.
Okay, I'm going to go first. All right, I'm on the board here at 11. Let's take a look.
I do dislike the 2nd round, though. I love the 3rd, so I kind of screwed myself. That's okay.
Let's see here. Let's see what we got. Okay, Tyler Warren, Malachi Starks, Mike Green, Will Johnson, Luther Burden. I do like Luther Burden. I really do, but this is Ayuk sticking around. Pierce, I think, is ideal for the wide 9. I really do. Egbuka's tough because he's a good polished receiver. Golden's fast, but I'm going right here. I'm going with Walter Nolan.
They met with him.
Yeah, the Niners met with Walter Nolan. Greg Cosell says he's the best defensive tackle in the draft. Called him a power 3 technique. He's really, really strong naturally. He's very, very quick. He plays low. He's good against the run. He's good against the pass. He's scheme versatile. I think he's the best guy to start with. Why? Because he can literally play the 3 technique. He could be a 1 technique. He could play a defensive end. He could literally play any of the spots. So now you have total flexibility to add anywhere. So there you go. I'm going Walter Nolan to start it off. And if they go Walter Nolan to start it off, I'll be doing cartwheels.
I love it. And, right off the bat, Shamar Stewart lasting to the second round is where he should go. I have a second round grade on 49ers met with them. That fits a need. And so, yeah, you're starting to see some of these names. I want to look at corner. I really think corner is such a big need. I thought they should have addressed it in free agency. They chose not to. Darian Porter, he's sitting there. They met with him. Jacob Parrish, they met with him. Let's go back to the top and see the top end corners. Siobhan Reveal, I don't think that they met.
He had the injury, but this is a really high end player. I don't know how much you've looked at Reveal from East Carolina, but he was a good Pirate, no question for them.
I like him. Now, the problem is sticking to the meetings chart. That's the theme of this mock, right? Like who the 49ers met with. And
I can tell you corner-wise who they've met with.
They met with Darian Porter at Iowa State, and I think that this is kind of the realm that he would go with. So he's on my short list for sure. Excuse me. Sorry. Apologies. Let's look at the edge position.
Wait 1 second. Wait, where am I? There we go. Okay. The edge position.
It's hard whenever you eliminate.
I know, because they double it up. They'll give you 2 at once. Here's the edge. Okay, so you have Shamar. You also have Landon Jackson. And that was another one of Greg Cosell's favorite defensive ends. He said he really liked that kid. He compared him to Max Crosby.
I love him. But so okay, Larry, are we deviating because the Niners did not meet with Landon Jackson? So he's off the board. I don't believe he's not on the list.
Are you sure?
So I've got Kyle Kennard. I've got Josh.
We're going off the list. We're going off the list today.
So Shamar Stewart is there. Man, I do not.
Did they meet with Shamar?
They did. They met with him at the combine, according to Marcus Mosher.
Okay, I will say this about Shamar. There's a lot of people that are down on him because he doesn't have sack totals. But I'm telling you, I'm an A&M fan. I watch Texas A&M every single week. It's a long story.
I feel sorry for you for saying that publicly. Exactly, I'm sorry, man.
I have the scars of A&M football. Gig 'em. No, but the thing about he led them in pressures, and really, to me, this is a Chris call. I'm walking right over to Chris, and I'm saying, Chris, can you coach this kid up? Because one of the things that they said about Bosa when he was coming out of Ohio State, he was really well coached. And one of the lines that you heard is that his hands and feet are tied together. Shamar Stewart's hands and feet are not tied together. And he doesn't benefit from hand usage and placement, and he doesn't have that refinement. What he has, though, is the best body and skill set of anybody, and he ain't soft. He's not soft. And I will say this, A&M has a problem from time to time of guys not playing hard. This guy plays with his hair on fire all the time. All the time. He plays incredibly hard. And he did lead them in pressures. But they did have Shamar Turner. They had Shamar Stewart. They had Nick Scorton. And so you had other guys making plays. But you also had quarterbacks who got rid of the ball. I mean, the ball came out against A&M this year. So I would not look at that. There wasn't a bunch of games where you were sitting there going, where is Shamar? He was there. He made plays. He just didn't sack the quarterback a lot.
Yeah, let's go back to the big board. So right now I'm thinking Darian Porter, Shamar Stewart. Those are like my short list that the 49ers have met with. And I do think that this is where Shamar should go. He's a good enough player to be a part of this. So let's scroll down. Jaden Higgins is there. JT, I don't think they met with JT. Oh, here we go.
Scatabo, by the way, yesterday ran a slow 40 time, and I would say Scatabo is a day 3 entity only.
I've been saying that for a while now, but there is a player I already saw. I've made up my mind.
Okay.
One of my rush crush players this draft is Carson Swissiger, linebacker, UCLA. He has met with the 49ers, so he fits my stud linebacker. I love him. Second, that's a little early, but if we're sticking to the code, I think the 49ers, I would take him as a football player over Porter and over Shamar. I love him, and he just starts. He's your linebacker 2. You kick out D. Winters. He's your linebacker 3. All is right in the world.
That is good. That's a good one. He's a hell of a player, man. He really is.
He will be everybody's fan favorite, like immediately. Walk on to team captain to everybody will love him.
Now I got to check the list here. I got to check her list to see who's on this list that I could potentially go with right here. Because
Tre Harris.
Yeah, there's Tre Harris. I'm trying to think who's on this list that would be. I'd love to go offensive line or defensive line. I do love Elijah Roberts from SMU, but this is probably a little early. I love David Walker. It might be a little early for him. Bassa.
They met with that. We already got our linebacker.
We got a linebacker. And I do love Eugene Asante later, so I may have to go. They did meet with Aeneas Peebles.
This is hard.
This is going to be very hard. They did meet with Isaiah Bond. Kenneth Grant. Let me take a look here. Who's still on the board? Let's check the board. See who's on the board. It might be, maybe I can go off recall. Okay, so this is everybody. So let's see. They met with Kyle Kennard.
They did. They met with Benjamin Morrison, corner too, didn't they?
Yeah,
I think they did.
Can you check that?
Yes,
check that? Can you see if you see Morrison on there, because he might be on my list of the guys I would take.
No. Damn it.
No.
Makuba.
It's interesting. You know what? I know this guy didn't work out well, but you know what? He's a hell of a player. He was the SEC Defensive Player of the Year, and I like Walter Nolan because of the SEC connection. I'm gonna stay in the SEC, and I'm taking Kyle Kennard. Kennard was the SEC Defensive Player of the Year. Now, he didn't have a great workout thing, but if he worked out the way they wanted him to work out, he would have gone in the top 15 picks, because this guy was a monster in the SEC this year. And he's a great player. He didn't work out great, but I'm not as concerned with, at this point, it's pick 75. This is a starting edge player opposite Nick Bosa. So give me Kyle Kennard.
I love it. Perfect fit. And man, the big board, I just tweeted, I've been working Tate Ratledge, the guard from Georgia, all morning. Yep. Fun play. He's like my Dominic Pooney clone. Niners didn't meet with him, so I can't take him here. Mullet, best anchor in the draft from the interior. Like ideal. Like he's built like a tackle, but he's going to be a guard. But we can't take him here, so I'm a little disappointed. Let's scroll down. Let's look at this big board. Savion Williams, I think they met with him, but I ain't taking him. Not in the third round.
They met with Harold Fannin.
I love Harold Fannin.
They met with Bassa. They met with Bond.
Jacob Parrish. Jacob Parrish.
They met with Oladejo. I think they're, I almost went Oladejo right there, but I went with Kennard just because a little bit more production.
I say this every time I get to the third round at pick 75 and 100. There's 20 players I want. Yeah. This is my favorite.
What do you think of this running back from Texas? Do you like Jaden Blue?
He's the most Raheem Mostert guy to ever exist, including Raheem Mostert. Speed, pass catching, special teams, kick returner. He's got some fumbling issues, but you're talking 4.2 speed. I don't need to look further. I'm going Jacob Parrish, corner. He's your number 3 corner. He's the most 49ers defensive back in this draft class. Mean as hell, tough as hell, athleticism check. He's your number 3 outside corner, and you're just done. And they met with him.
It's so funny that you mentioned him, John, because I kind of think, last year, the Eagles took Quinyon Mitchell. And I thought he was the cleanest prospect in the whole draft. When I say cleanest, he was a great player at Toledo. He was great at the All-Star game. I mean, the best player I thought at the All-Star game. And then I thought he was worked out like a great player. And then they drafted him. And he had a phenomenal year. I think Parrish is exactly the same guy. Parrish ran in the 4.3s. His tape is fantastic. He's not the biggest player, but if you watch him, he plays big. I mean, he stonewalls people. This guy can hit. This guy's a hitter, and he's tough. So that's a great one, man. I love Jacob Parrish there. All right, let's go back to. Well, I can look at this list here. I can look at the big board, or I can go look at Steph's list. I better check out Steph's list here real quick, just to make sure if I can find somebody that I really like in this part of the draft. Let me see. Do I see? So I'm really shopping off her list.
Isaiah Bond, he's on there. Savion Williams, I think he got picked.
I'm trying. Jalen Knoll, is Jalen Knoll still there?
I don't know.
Oh, here. What? I'm running both here. So let me just take a quick perusal of her list. Trey Amos is there. You know who had a bad workout at the A&M Pro Day was Shamar Turner, and yet he's really talented. Kobe Bryant is an interesting name. Hairston, Makuba, Savion.
So we went 4 defensive players to start, and I love this. Nolan, Swish, Kennard. You got 4 starters. Like, whether they're quality starters, Kennard could phase in, but like Parrish is starting, Swish is starting, Nolan's starting. All 4 of those guys are starting week 1.
This is going to be, I'll tell you, it's challenging right in the mid rounds because they have some guys they've met with a lot of guys in the late rounds. Okay, let me go back. Now I've got an assessment of her list. Let me go back to the board here. I think that you gotta, even if you're gonna have Ayuk, you gotta have a receiver.
Noah Dotson they met with, Noah Wilson.
I think you gotta have a receiver, and they met with Isaiah Bond, and I'm gonna go with Isaiah Bond. Isaiah Bond, I think, is a really, really good receiver that didn't particularly have a very good Texas career, but he runs great. I think he's one of the best runners. I think they need a downfield threat. They need a complement. They need a receiver that complements their other receivers, and Isaiah Bond would do that. So I'm going Isaiah Bond. So we have Nolan, Schlesinger, Kennard, Parrish, and Isaiah Bond, and you are up with pick 138.
All right, let's scroll down a little on the big board. I'm seeing Bayshell Tootin there, who we met with. Torrey Horton, we just got a wide receiver, so I'm going to stay away from that. Jarquiz Hunter, oh, man.
You want to see any position separated?
Yeah, I'm going to, you know what? Man, I almost want to go Kyle Williams here, wide receiver, but I don't want to go back-to-back wide receiver. But, man,
he's a hot name right now. Why does everybody love Kyle Williams so much? He's kind of a smallish receiver from Wazoo, but he has been getting a lot of good.
I watched his tape versus Colorado, and he gave Travis Hunter everything he wanted and more.
Really? I gotta go watch that.
He's a fun player. Gosh.
I can go further down the list here if you want to.
I'm going to do a running back pick here, even though I don't want to. So let's filter it by running backs, because I think I'm going to go Bayshell Tootin unless somebody else is available. Brashard Smith.
Now, Brashard Smith is interesting to me. I don't know that Brashard Smith is a running back because he's only 195 pounds. But you know what? I think Brashard Smith could be a dominant receiver. I love Brashard Smith as a receiver.
I like Jacory. I like Jarquiz. Did they meet with Jarquiz? They did not. I like Jarquiz. I'm going to go Bayshell Tootin here. I think
they met with Bayshell.
They met with Bayshell. Informal meeting at the combine, according to Rohan, my man Rohan. He's awesome. But yeah, Bayshell Tootin. I think he's just the most Kyle Shanahan fit ever. And so yeah, running back Virginia Tech.
4.32 speed, man. I mean,
in the 4th round, that's where he should go.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a little surprised he's here, to be honest. I mean, 4.32 speed. He's got pretty good size. He had pretty decent production. Are you surprised he's here in the 4th round? No,
the fumbling issues, like he's a zone fit only. So like you've got Miami, all the Kyle Shanahan offshoots going after him. But I think the 4th round is where he's going to grab a a guy there. I don't like it as much, but this is a little bit more what I think Kyle will do. And again, we're stuck, guys, to who the 49ers have met with. So, like, a lot of these players, we only got 100 players that they've met with. So it's
going to be challenging. Difficult. It's going to be challenging. Okay, so now I got to go back and forth and see who's left. Let me double check here. Tight ends. Let's see who's on the board tight end wise. Okay, Urasek, Hawes. They did meet with Conyers, and I do love Conyers. Okay,
yes.
But, take that one down for a sec. Let's go linebacker on defense. I'm a big linebacker guy.
So do you think they get 2 linebackers?
Yes, I do.
Yeah,
I do.
I think they could use it.
Did they meet with Teddy Buchanan?
I have not seen that reported. It is not on the list.
It's not on this list, but I feel like one of the other lists on like Niners Nation or 49er Web Zone may have had more names on it. But they did meet with Eugene Asante, and he's my favorite. So I'm going to go Eugene Asante. And I know this draft has him at 294, which is just ridiculous. Eugene Asante is everything. I think Eugene Asante would be he's one of my favorite players in this entire draft. He's one of the safest players in this entire draft. I would bet everything I have to my name that Eugene Asante is a good player. I'm so convinced this guy worked out like a monster. His tape is crazy. He was amazing in the All-Star game. This guy, I think they would have to use this pick on him here. I don't think he's going to go any further than this. It's funny because I just looked at the Matt Miller ESPN.com mock draft, and he has Eugene Asante in the 7th round. I'm not buying it for a second. I think he's going earlier on day 3. I love this guy. He is Dre Greenlaw in a 222-pound body. He's not Greenlaw as far as a thumper, but he's Greenlaw in every other aspect. He's hyperactive. He wants to kill you. He lives to play football. He's a violent player who is noticeable, and how hard he plays stands out. Screams. You have to have this guy, Eugene Asante. If the Niners get Eugene Asante or Chandler Martin, I'm gonna go absolutely crazy. So there you go, Eugene Asante. Pick 147.
Let's look at defensive tackles. Now, here's the problem. They haven't met with a lot of later defensive tackles. So this is a problem because
this is what I'm talking about. If you go back, I think like Tonka Hemingway is he on this list? Because I could have swore they met with him at
there's nobody that is even in this CJ West, but he's gone. I don't see Tonka on the list. So, like, this is the issue is, man, can you scroll down the defensive tackle best available? And let me see if there's any matchups here. Dude, see,
No, but I could have swore they met with Cam Horsley and Ty Robinson. I know they met with Howard Cross. Are we looking at the right list? I feel like maybe her list on the database doesn't have as many names as the list on 49er website.
I love Ty Robinson. I love Howard Cross. I love Thor Griffith. Like, I love those guys here. So I'm fine deviating because we got to get more defensive ends. And so
let's see if I can find the list. Here it is. Pre-draft tracker. Okay, so now I'm looking at a list. I'm gonna share the screen. Hold on a second. I'm gonna stop sharing the screen on the draft for a second. I'm gonna show you this other page, John, and maybe you could call this up on your side too. So I'll stop sharing right there, and I will start sharing this other page right here from 49er Web Zone. This is their draft tracker. Okay, so this has a list that seems to be longer. Reported interest.
And so Steph only puts on there if there's like an official whatever. So yeah, this is going to be a more.
I think this
is going to have a wider
look at it. So let's look for defensive tackles on this list because I think there are some. Let me see.
This is a fun process, man. I'm enjoying this.
I mean, CJ West, okay, Shamar Turner.
Those are all top end guys mostly.
Walter Nolan. I'm going from the bottom to the top here. Okay, that's at the scouting combine. Elijah Roberts from SMU. Aeneas Peebles.
Man, there's just not a lot there. Jay Thompson, he's undrafted free agent. We're stuck.
It's a little. Wait a second. There's got to be a couple more names here. Is it
We are prisoners of the theme in which we created.
We're not going to be able to fill a need.
There's no more. So we got to deviate. That's all right. They draft 1/3 of the players from their meetings, but we got to take a defensive tackle here. And I think Ty Robinson is awesome. He's incredible, fits exactly what the Niners need. We got Walter Nolan early. You're walking out of this draft guaranteed with 2 defensive tackles. So
who do you want out of this group?
I like Simeon Barrow, but I'm fine with Ty Robinson in the 5th round. It's a little early, but I want him. Like, we need this. I like Simeon Barrow, but he's a little too much like Walter Nolan. You get Ty Robinson, you get the complimentary piece. I'm happy with that.
All right, now we're in the 7th round because the Niners don't have a 6th round. We're at pick 227. The Niners have 3 more picks left, and so all these guys here are available in the 7th round. Brady Cook, Aronde Gadsden, Holland Pierce. I'm looking Sam Brown's a decent player. Did they meet with any of these guys?
Holland Pierce they met with.
They did?
At the combine, yes.
Did they meet with
the tackle?
How about Montrell Johnson? Did they meet with Montrell Johnson? The running back? I could have swore they did.
I'm not seeing his name. Look at us doing research. We're like high school kids completing a research project.
How about Dan Jackson? I like Dan Jackson from Georgia, or Aaron Smith from South Carolina State.
I'm not seeing them there, but
I do like Zachary Franklin as a late round.
I do as well.
I could have swore
Rock Taylor. Hey, he's going to be one of my picks. I love Rock Taylor. Memphis wide receiver. I'm a big fan of that kid. And Niners met with him.
Let's see. Let me just Rock Taylor from Memphis.
Yeah, he's fun, man. Super long arms.
I'm gonna go. This is tough. Didn't they meet with Mac McWilliams from Central Florida? No,
I believe so. Let me see if it's on her list.
See if you see him.
Mac. Mac Dixon Williams, UConn.
No,
Malik Dixon Williams, UConn.
No,
sorry.
Let me see. Rock Taylor, they did meet with. I'm looking now. I'm just going to
Cam Stone, Donovan McMillan, Corey Black, DeJuan Black, Kosi Agena. Those are the late round corners they met with.
At this point, I'm just looking for a player that I really that I like. That it's really just trying to find any player that you like. Okay, let's take a look. Let's take a look at corner. Because you can, my old scouting buddy, what's the key to coverage is coverage. In other words, there is no key to coverage. You got to have dudes. So that's that. I always look at that. Let me see, wide receiver. Get rid of corner for a second. Let's see. There we go. Okay, cool. These are the wide receivers. I like Rock Taylor. They met with Arian Smith, but he just can't.
They did.
He cannot catch. He just
that's a problem if you're a wide receiver, Larry.
That's just no. If you can't catch, you can't play. Let's look at tight end. Jalen Conyers is gone. They did meet with Rivaldo Fairweather.
They sure did. Auburn. You are Auburn guys. You Texas A&M and Auburn.
I do like the Auburn guys. Okay, let's see. I might go Brady Cook here. Malachi Moore's not bad. Let me just look down this list. There's got to be somebody here that they've met with that I could go with.
I like there's your boy Dan Jackson.
I know. Did they meet with him though?
No.
Marcus Ware? Did they
Tommy
meet with
Hill?
Marcus
they
Ware?
met with Tommy Hill, the corner. I saw his
name
on there.
Here's a guy they met with. They met with Nick Martin from Oak State. I like Nick
Yes,
Martin.
they did.
I'm going linebacker again. I do believe the Niners need 2 linebackers. So Getting Asante and Nick Martin is not the craziest thing.
And we got Carson. We got Carson earlier. We got 3 linebackers. We are loaded.
That's right. We got Carson earlier. So but you know what? I'm okay with that because I think this is the draft to redo your linebacking core.
Man, this is hard hamstrung like this. Can you go to offensive tackle? I want to see if there's.
I know it's tough. Okay, here we go. Offensive tackle. Carson Vincent, Esapole.
Did they meet with Vincent or Esapole? I don't think so. Holland Pierce is gone now. Scroll down one more time on that. Oh, never mind. That's okay.
No, I can go back to it.
I'm just like, man, dude, we got to get a tackle. We got to get something.
Yeah, there's.
We haven't made with any of these guys. Scroll back up. I'm gonna deviate. I'm gonna go Carson Vincent. I like Xavier Truss, but Carson Vincent, I feel like out of Alabama A&M, elite long arms. You just plant him. He's your backup. Let him learn behind Trent. He's a future left tackle if he can develop. If he can't, 7th rounder. Who cares?
I love Carson Vincent. I think I mean, I did a whole deep dive on this kid. He had a 5.12 40, 78th percentile. Experienced player. He played 48 games in college, all at left tackle, first team all SWAC. Needs work on his technique. Great feet, though. Great quick slide, good pass protector. Needs to get a little stronger. 61 knockdown blocks as a senior. Only allowed 1 sack in the games against the SEC. Former basketball player. Level of competition's a little bit of concern, but he's got an 84-inch wingspan, which is 99th percentile. First HBCU player to be invited to the Senior Bowl ever. And Alabama A&M's offense led the SWAC in total yards and in passing offense. This guy's considered a competitor who will finish his blocks. Yeah, I like Vincent a lot.
My player comp for Carson Vincent, I was plugging in the metrics. DeBrickashaw Ferguson, you remember him?
Yeah,
like
he was
that's
great.
What he's built like. Yeah, but it's just the level of competition. I have a 6th-round grade on Carson, but yeah, a value pick here.
Okay, so I'm going to go at the end here. So what we've got our tackle. We've got an offensive tackle, but we don't have an offensive interior player. I'll tell you, I like Marcus Ware, and I might consider going Marcus Ware.
Back-to-back small school guys. Why not?
Yeah.
Niners love those guys.
Let me check her list one more time. Oh, I know. I was going to say, this one doesn't have Shunderick Powell in it. Otherwise, I might consider Shunderick Powell. Conyers is gone. I would have considered Conyers here. Zoff Frazier is gone. Otherwise, I would have considered Zoff Frazier here. Caleb Etienne is not here as well. Let me take a look at the defensive line real quick.
Yeah, defensive line's rough. There's a lot of edge players that are kind of in this area, but
let's see, edge-wise. This Elijah Ponder from Cal Poly, believe it or not, is a freaky athlete. Though I can't take a Cal Poly guy. I mean, sorry, Kev. Sorry. Love you, Kev. But no, I can't go Cal Poly. Howard Cross the third, I think they met with.
Good player. Good player.
You know what? Walter. The one thing about this is they have to get the run stuffers.
We're going to get both Nebraska boys. We got Ty Robinson earlier.
I'm staring at Nash, and I love Nash, but he is
kind of your T-shirt, man.
Yeah, I know. But let me see. Let me go running back because I think there's great running back depth.
We're getting 2 running backs. We only have 4 on the roster.
Let's see. When we get rid of the defensive tackles out of there. So Raheem Sanders is hard.
I like him a lot.
Yeah, that's a hard guy to pass. I'm going to go Raheem Sanders. He's just too big and too fast. I'll tell you the other guy. I really love Jakari Franklin, the Illinois wide receiver who doesn't run great. But John, I watch this guy. This guy reminds me an awful lot of Jawan Jennings. But I'm going to go Raheem Sanders. If Raheem Sanders is there, people are going to be doing cartwheels because Raheem Sanders is just big, strong, fast. He's electric.
I need to rewatch Raheem because I have like a 5th round grade on him. And I'm like, am I too high? Like the tape is incredible. The body's incredible. The size, the speed. Like, I'm just like, what am I?
No,
why do I like him so much?
No, I think you're right. I think I do too. I would say 4th, 5th round talent, but he's there in the 7th round. But the way this draft, there's going to be some running backs and some tight ends and some defensive tackles that are really good. They're going to slip. So here's our mock. And you know what? This is a mock that was based almost entirely on guys they've met with. Walter Nolan.
That was hard. That was
hard. That was hard. Walter Nolan in round 1, Carson Schlesinger in round 2. So now you get you're really plugging up your run D, right? And then you get Kyle Kennard, the SEC Defensive Player of the Year in the 3rd round. You're coming back with Jacob Parrish in the 3rd round.
I love those 4 picks, man. Those front 4, I would be so happy with those.
I think these guys are Pro Bowl caliber players, all 4 of those guys. Then Isaiah Bond gives you that vertical threat receiver. Where there's, you know what I also love about this? There's a heavy emphasis in, with your pick of Parrish, my pick of Bond, and your pick of Tootin. 3 picks in a row of speed. We've added some serious speed. Parrish runs in the 4.3s. Bond runs in the 4.3s. Bayshul, Tootin run 4.32. So you're adding speed at running back, speed at receiver, and speed on the corner. I think that's badly needed. Asante gives you that hyperactive, violent linebacker. We got some undersized linebackers. We got a big try-hard guy in Ty Robinson. We got a developmental offensive tackle that I think has potential to be better than any of the tackles that go in this draft. And then you have Raheem Sanders, who is a big physical running back, who would be a really nice complement to what they have right now. And they need a back that can finish with. Taj Brooks would be another one for me. But Raheem Sanders is even a little bit more explosive than Taj Brooks and can catch the ball. So, yeah, I like it.
It was hard doing the only meeting. Like I passed on a lot of names just because it's like the Niners haven't met with them yet. But again, for the people that are saying or that would say, oh, they're not going to draft any of these guys, 1/3 of the 49ers picks since Shanahan have been here have been players they have met with. That's why these names, I think it's important to do this. Is this a likely landing spot of a complete mock draft? No, none of them are. But when you confine yourself to such a small pool of players to pull from, it gets hard, man. That was difficult.
Let's finish with this thought. If we were wagering, maybe we'll keep track. I'll jot this down. I'll just jot this down just for the heck of it, just for S's and giggles. Okay, if we were wagering and we went back to the list of the Steph Sanchez list, let's go 1 through 5 of the guys that you believe and I believe will be 49ers. This is not in the mock. This is just shopping off of her list. Who do you think off her list are? I mean, now we're not dealing with, what round and who's available. It's just, who do you think, if you had to bet 5 names, and we'll bet a beer. We'll bet a beer next time we see each other.
I love this.
Whoever gets more out of the 5, if you go 5 for 5 and I go 5 for 5, then we'll split it. But and first of all, if we both go 5 for 5, then we're going to call John Lynch and demand jobs in the front office. John, we both went 5 for 5. We know you're thinking.
I love it.
Beat it, Krueger. Get out of here. We'll take Chapman, but not you. Okay, so we'll go in no order.
Oh, God.
You just pick 5 guys from the list. And I'm
Rock Harris. You ready? Sorry.
We'll take a look at the list.
Oh, I've got them. I've got them.
Got your 5 guys already? Okay, so
yeah, I do.
Give me 30 seconds. I got 1. I got 2. Okay.
Oh, this is fun, man. It's hard.
It's going to be hard, but it's also kind of like, who do they love? Who do they really, really love? I'm looking for the last one. Did they meet with Peebles?
Yes,
they did. Is he on here?
Yes. I believe he is. I think they have him under defensive tackle though. Yeah, Aeneas Peebles. Yeah.
Okay.
Met them in
So
the Senior Bowl.
He's on my list. Okay, here we go. I've got my 5 guys.
You tell me when to go.
Go ahead. Go. You go first.
All right. Jacob Parrish.
Jacob Parrish. I'm writing it down.
CJ West.
CJ West.
Then I'm going to double up on linebacker. I'm going Jeffrey Bossa, Chris Paul, and then Rock Taylor. Those are my 5.
Wow. Rock Taylor. Rock with a C. Okay.
ROC, baby.
I'm going to go. Okay. Wait a second. I'm going to make one switch. Okay. Here we go. Wait.
Did we have any on both? Did I have any guys on your list?
No. My list, I'm going Jalen Conyers, the Texas Tech tight end. I'm going Olufemi Oladejo.
Good one.
I'm going Aeneas Peebles. I'm going Carson Bruner. That's what I'm going with, Carson Bruner. Carson Bruner, Jalen Conyers, Olufemi Oladejo, Aeneas Peebles. And my last one, I'm going to go with a wild stab because they didn't really meet with too many guys at this spot. But I'm going to go with a wild stab at quarterback, and I'm going to say Taylor Elgersma.
Lawyer.
Taylor Elgersma from Laurier, the quarterback.
Laurier.
They met with Chandler Rogers, Taylor Elgersma, Graham Mertz, and CJ Ogbonna. Those are the only quarterbacks they've met with. But I'm gonna go quarterback. Taylor Elgersma, Aeneas Peebles, Olufemi Oladejo, Carson Bruner, Jalen Conyers. John is going with Parrish, Jacob Parrish, CJ West, Jeffrey Bossa, Chris Paul, and Rock Taylor. That's Rock with a C. All right. I like it. Let's do we have there we go. No, we got this one at the end there. Aeneas Peebles reminds me of Ronald Blair. We got that. All right, that's going to do it for us on a Saturday. I'm off to watch my son play a little baseball doubleheader, a little freshman baseball. John, what do you got cooking on a Saturday?
I am heading into the city. Going to go watch March Madness. Going to go watch the Elite Eight game. Yes, sir. I'm pumped, dude.
Now, who do we got today?
Florida and Tech play in the Chase Center.
Florida so Texas Tech, and who had the amazing comeback against Arkansas. Awesome. That was so who do you like?
Man, I think I like Florida, but it's hard for me to cheer for a Texas Tech team. I'm a Longhorn, so I'm just going to go to have a good time, have some beers, watch some good basketball. Really excited about this. Tip-off is at 3. I think it's 3:08 Pacific time. So I'm going to jump in the shower, head across the bridge, and have some beverages and enjoy some basketball. I'm excited.
Awesome. And one more promotion for John's event that is coming up. Let's do that. Let's see.
Thank you, Larry.
I have that here.
If you want to go to the draft party, days 1 and day 2, go to the49ersrush.com. Click on that ticket at the top, and you can pick $20. Kids get in free, autographed jerseys, giveaway, 49ers trivia, nonstop 49ers coverage, big screens. Gonna be a blast. The49ersrush.com. Go get your tickets, and we're going to be announcing a player soon, so stay tuned for that.
Yeah, and once again, 49er Rush NFL Draft Party. Go to the49errush.com /2025 Draft Party if you want to get right to the page. But yeah, tickets are limited. Secure your spot in John's 2025 NFL Draft Party right there in San Francisco. Family fun, ages 18 and under, free with a ticketed adult.
That's right. My kiddo's going to be there, my 16-year-old.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Well, that's going to do it for us on a Saturday. Thanks to John. Thanks to all of you. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle. Thanks to Mancini's. Have a great rest of your Saturday. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week. And for John, I'm Larry. Peace.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of.